very warm welcome. It's really, really nice to see people here tonight. Looking at our audience, I think I can pull rank on everybody here and say that I think I've been gay longer than anybody else in the room.
That's some rank.
But that's putting rank, yeah. So, yes, great. This is the third of
Yes.
our Wednesday evening open space evenings, part of our Lent programme. And our Lent programme is on the theme, the beloved community. Throughout the season, we are exploring this little phrase that was so much loved and popularised by Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who talked about the creation of a beloved community as a reconciled and redeemed community of people across the world who were part of a struggle for justice in one way or another. And he was describing something which transcended his own political motivations, which began with desegregation in the south of the United States and extended as his career went on to address what he called the three big evils, racism, poverty, and militarism. And whilst it's quite some time now, Dr. King was assassinated in 1968, those three evils still, persist, as we know. And we only need to look at today's newspapers to see how and where those things continue. So our theme for Lent has been this exploration of the beloved community. Who are we as a community? Who are we as human beings in relationship to each other? And who are we in relationship to a God who we call loved? And as a follower, as disciples of a great prophet who told us to love one another as God loved him. So here we are, and we've had a very good introduction to Dr. King's work from Richard Reddy, who was a biographer of Dr. King. And then last week we had a very good session, greatly helped by Ben and others, on the beloved community and creation. Next week we're going to have a very different event, which is bringing just our friends and people we connect with in this community and have some food together and music and get to know each other. And then the week after we're going to look at women and women in the beloved community with a womanist theologian, Chaplain. So that's our programme. But there is also on Saturday the 26th, so week on Saturday evening, we're showing a very rarely seen film called King from every time I announce this thing, I forget the title. King from Montgomery to Memphis. It's a film by Sidney Lumet, the famous film director. And so please come along with that, it's free. And then on Good Friday we have an evening of music and poetry from our own Union Chapel Voices. So that's it. And tonight we explore the theme of LGBTQ and the beloved community. Where do we fit into this idea of the beloved community? Where do we fit in? I'm really pleased to welcome the Reverend Jide Macaulay from the House of Rainbow, and we also hear music from our regular crew from Sunday mornings, so all of our musicians, Jacqueline, Barney, George and Ben, are people who've taken part in our Sunday services, which are always a dilemma, but you're always welcome. So, are we going to begin with some music? Yep, we are. And then we'll have a talk from Jide with some questions, and then we'll have some more music. Oh, we'll have a little meditation, and that's the kind of format we've been having for these evenings. A talk, a meditation, and some music, and some socialising, and a bar. So, music.
Hi, before we start, I should probably explain what this is. If you've been here, if you've seen me play this on a Sunday morning, you've probably seen me play it this direction. No, yes. Instrument. So that was my church serve, and this is my military serve. I'm not pro-military, but basically it's an ancestor of the modern tuba. It uses a kind of trombone-style mouthpiece. I think this one might be ivory, but it's not new. This one's from the 19th century. It's not a remake. It's sort of made of wood, which is bent with steam and then wrapped in leather. And it's people think it's medieval because it's a tube with holes in. But it's not. It's much later. So in the 18th century, it was used for plain chant, which is what you might have played before. But it also caught on as a kind of dance thing. So in some sort of Jane Austen adaptations, you might see Serpent. And yeah, it was very popular kind of village band instrument. So I'm going to play what Ben and I are going to play two English country dances. One of them is called The Hole in the Wall, which I won't comment on, and another one is called Portsmouth. And yeah. Oh, sorry.
doing?
Hello, everyone. Hello. I'm not going to sing. So. Oh, thank you so much. Let me start by sharing my gratitude for the invitation to be with you tonight. I'm truly grateful, and I actually have a relationship with Islington. I was born in Islington. A lot of people don't know that, there's questions about, where are you from? I'm from Islington. I think it helps in a way. So, and the other good news is that there is a flag with my name on it on Kaleidoscope Square. And it's one of the flags that was produced by Islington Pride. So if you go out to Kaleidoscope Square, N1, and go have a look at it, and then if you take a picture of if you actually do the scan, the barcode, it will take you into the website and you can read a little bit more about what it says. I think I should have told Vaughn how to say my name, and I don't know if I said your name right as well. It's Jide, not Jide, but it's okay. A lot of people call me all sorts of things like Jedi, Judy. Yeah, Starbucks the other day wrote Judith on my, on my drink, and I go, who's Judith? So, yeah, I should have come in. I came in as Judy, came out as Judy.
That's okay.
Usually.
You can't say my name,
But with all of that as well, if you just forget my name, just remember the happy, holy homosexual. Okay, usually you put your contact at the end of your message. Well, I think I decided to put this at the beginning so that people can literally go on social media and follow House of Rainbow, get to know all about our organization. Thank you. So Vaughn asked me to speak, and I prepared a slide that can take about 2 hours. But I got a shock that only Julie, you only got about 30 minutes to speak, but it's okay. I just want to speak with you lightheartedly and talk about my journey and the work that we do at House of Rainbow. So disregard the content and then we flow together. A little bit about myself. Like I said, I was born in Islington, and there's a postcard on the information desk. You can just take one there and read a little bit more about me when you are having your supper tonight, or when you are dozing away. There's something to read about me, but I'll share briefly with you. I was born in Islington in 1965. Yes, I don't look my age, 56 years old. My parents were students from Nigeria in the 1960s. They came to England, and of course they stayed in Islington, where I was born. My friend Stephen Saxby, we're just walking around. The very hospital where I was born is now a block of flats. So it's the annex behind the other side of Islington. So, but it's so good to be able to see it and just walk around it. My father studied engineering and my mother was a midwife. Unfortunately, my mother's late. She passed away in 2013. My father is still alive. He lives in Nigeria at the moment. Later in his career, he became a minister of the gospel. So, yes, his son is a homosexual. This doesn't go down well in the Nigerian family. But nonetheless, my father also started what is known as United Bible University, the second largest theological university in Nigeria. So that plays a lot of big impact even in my own life and also with my own openness with my sexuality. I was raised in Nigeria, so I studied in Nigeria until I completed my A-levels, and I returned to England. When I first came to England, I didn't even know I was born in England until I saw all the birth certificates, the photographs of my mother, and of course, all of my details and my siblings' details were on my mother's passport. I think back in the 60s, it's rare that children have their own passport, so they had their details on their mother's passport, so that was quite a good guarantee. And back then, it was easy for us to get a British citizenship. We just went to the British Embassy, My older brother was definitely 18 years or more. He actually signed on behalf of the other two, and we collected our passport within 2 weeks. It was really that straightforward. But of course, things are not that easy today. So I think Margaret Thatcher changed the law in the 1980s. So if you're born here, you're not British, which is really sad. Anyway, when it comes to the issues of my sexuality, I've always known that I'm gay, maybe from about age 5, and I think that many people who are LGBT will probably know something that's different for them. But in many cultures, we don't have the vocabulary, as gay, because sometimes it's frowned upon. And of course, in Nigeria, it's something that's really frowned upon as well. But the reality is that, I grew up with these differences in my own life, in my own journey, and that, as a child who is also pastor's kid, we call ourselves PK. Anyone heard that phrase before? Yeah, okay, PK. Pastor's kid, you struggle a lot. But in my family, there's something about, being part of a conservative Christian family, is that the Bible quiz, in our church region has to be won by our household for second and third prize. No one gets it. People thought it was fixed, that, and someone must be fixing this thing, how come the pastor's kids are all getting all the prizes? Yeah, we have to study the Bible quite seriously. So, and for me, I got so interested in scriptures earlier on in my own life that, it was so easy for me to find scriptures like Leviticus. So when I was 13 years old, I discovered Leviticus. It really brought the life out of me. So I would say to people, the Bible has to be age appropriate. Don't just leave the Bible around, lock it away. So, but the good news is that I've reconciled, I now understand what Leviticus says, and I can tell other people the good news. I was married. Like every African, and the reason I was also so connected with Islington is that the church I went to is on Kaleidoscope Square. Does anyone know that big church in the middle of the square? It used to be occupied by the Celestial Church of Christ, which is a Nigerian church community. So when I first came to England, that was the first church I went to. So I was immersed in the Nigerian community from day one. And it took me almost a decade, when I came out as gay, before I was able to leave that community. And what it also did was that I was not aware of the other communities around me, maybe at work. I used to work just by Highbury Field. There used to be the office there, and then it's Highbury, and it's a magistrate court. Yeah, I worked for the Crown Prosecution Service, just round the corner. So, and then of course there are people at my workplace that we're always, we go to different restaurants once a month. Try something new. Greek restaurant, Portuguese restaurant, Nigerian restaurant. I made sure that we all had jollof rice, so that was so important to me. But nonetheless, it was in 91 that I got married to a woman, and the reason for this is that, I struggled with my own sexuality growing up, and I remember very much, the time I was praying a lot to God, to take away my sexuality. I don't want to be gay. And I met a beautiful young woman in my church. I turned to her and said, "Will you be my wife?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Yeah, I'm no longer gay." Well, not quite like that, but I was very convinced at the time that, because I have a girlfriend, I'm not gay. And, of course, I was in a relationship with her for 7 years, and in that period of time, it became more difficult with my sexuality, because I just realized that, God, the longer I'm in this relationship, the worse the things are gonna get. But of course, when you're in a church community and you're surrounded by different people, we were encouraged to get married. So the last 3 years of my relationship to my ex-wife, we were married, legally married, and then we have a child together. So then I started struggling. I started having mental health anxieties, and so many other things were happening to me. In that period. So I remember coming home one summer and, sat her down to tell her how much I love her, and then I've got something to tell her. Those 3 words, "I am gay," when they came out, she was broken. And I remember her words. The first thing she said, "I can't compete with this." I said, "Yes, for the last 7 years, I've been trying to get you to compete with it, but you can't." And I think that, again, in relationship, there are things that happen that are probably signs. I remember when I was before I met her, I collected postcards, of nude men. Can you imagine? Isn't that a clue? So I probably had about 200 postcards. And then when she found them, she said, "What have you called this postcard?" I said, "Art." She didn't say anything after that. But we got married nonetheless. Let me just, divert a little bit and just talk a little bit about some of the work that I do. When I came out as gay, I struggled a lot because, I was now questioning my sexuality and questioning everything I've been taught at church. Questioned why I had to get married to a woman, to be myself. I questioned so many things. And when I first came out, I was now asking so many questions, including what I've been taught at church. I think just before we started, I think it was my friend here, I said we have to unlearn to relearn. So everything that I've been taught, I have to unlearn them and start to learn more about myself. So I basically became an activist when I came out. It wasn't easy because I couldn't find the right space for me. And I remember I came out in '94. The church here excommunicated me for about 2 years. In '96, this is the time that you watch television, you watch programs on television or radio. I found a church that was in East London. I really liked the church. And then I decided that I'm going to go to this church because I think I like, this vibe that's going on there. So I went to the church. And what I decided when I went to the church was that I want to be a Christian. I want to have that space where I can celebrate my Christianity. But by now, I understand my sexuality. I have gay friends as well. But I'm not finding my Christian faith developing in the gay spaces, but I still want to go to church. So just imagine I've got 2 lives now. My gay life and my Christian life. So when I went back to church, I was hanging out with all the Christians, but I was still hanging out with my gay friends. I couldn't tell my gay friends that I'm a Christian, and I can't tell my Christian friends that I'm gay. It was difficult. I had to remember what story I've told my Christian friends and what story I'm sharing with my gay friends. It became another pain. So I was in this church community for about 4 years before they found out I was gay. It was very uncomfortable. Now, if a cute man tells me, "Jide, your shirt is well ironed," or "you got a new haircut," I think, "Oh my God, I got a date." But no. It's not so. It's just a brother just admiring you. And I think the most painful thing also is that when people come to my home, and I have to remove things in my home that maybe suggest that I'm gay, move them out of the way. But it doesn't stop them, taking an extra pack of food to their wives and girlfriends after my cooking. I cook very well. Yeah. Some of my friends can testify. But nonetheless, the struggle was there. The struggle was real and it was there. I'm going to skip this slide because I want to get to a video I want to share with you. But nonetheless, I think that, what I'm trying to communicate to you is that, God has brought me along on this journey. And there is no doubt that God is at the center of everything that I've experienced. And I'm so grateful to God. I'm grateful to my friends. I'm grateful to those who mentor me as well. But also, I'm also in a place where I can share with others. So, let me just skip. In 2006, after a long time of studies and training with the Metropolitan Community Church, I decided to go back to Nigeria to start the House of Rainbow ministry. And there's a video I'm going to share with you, and you're going to just get a glimpse of the work that we did in Nigeria and also how things are going today. But nonetheless, House of Rainbow fosters relationship among Black, Asian, minority, ethnic, LGBT people of faith. People always say, "They're white, Black, and ethnic minority." I say, well, that's where God is calling us. It is so important because we are providing a ministry that is culturally appropriate and traditionally sensitive. You know, I mean, for many people, you need to understand that, you know, black people, we worship differently. And, you know, and the reason for this also is that when I came out as gay and I started going to the gay places, they were all white people. I'm thinking, where are the black people? I think maybe they were telling me that, you know those phrases, you know, black people cannot be gay. Yeah, it really played a lot in my mind for a while. And of course, when I then found the Metropolitan Community Church, they were all white again. I said, oh God, okay, this is not good, you know. But I soon became Minister for African Ministries, and I had a responsibility to, you know, to shepherd and bring, you know, other people to church who don't look like the people in the church. You see what I mean? And that was so important. And if we're talking about justice and creating spaces, you know, God had a plan. And I really, really agree in that moment. So this is what House of Rainbow looks like at the moment. We are Black LGBT led, 87%. That is really good. And I think sometimes, you know, when we talk about our beneficiaries, we represent the beneficiaries. So the leaders of House of Rainbow represent the beneficiaries that we support as well. And that is so important. Right. So that's a film that I mentioned. It's only about 6 minutes long. I think it's already been set to play, so let's watch it.
I believe, as a black African gay man and a Christian theologian, that God loves everyone just the way they are. Growing up as a young person, as a black African Nigerian, I think that the word gay did not feature in our vocabulary. The word homosexuality does not exist at all in our language. I think around about age 6, 7, I was quite clear. I just knew that I had a desire to be with someone of my own gender. My family was a Christian family, quite conservative. We go to church almost every day. At age 13, because I was so involved in church, you know, studying my Bible, I discovered the text in the Bible in Leviticus 18 verse 20 and 20 verse 13 that says in black and white that if a man have sex with another man is an abomination and they shall be put to death. I've always felt from that moment that God don't love me and that I was an abuse, I was an abomination to God. When you've been called an abomination, when you've been told that you are a disgrace, when you've been told that being gay is bringing your family name to disrepute, you find yourself in a very lonely place. I have had suicidal thoughts many times. I have even tried to take my own life because I felt it's not worth it. I would have avoided all of this pain only if I knew where to find the best support for a young teenager who is, you know, having a conflict around their sexuality, if I had someone to talk to. I was excommunicated primarily, and, you know, when I started to go back to church in '96, I started to think, can there ever be a church where gay people can go to? And that's part of the reason that, you know, I actually started House of Rainbow, so that there is a place where people can come to, you know, for an explanation. In August of 2006, we were ready to start House of Rainbow. The following month in September, we started with an opening service with about 32 people in attendance. So first day wasn't bad at all, and in subsequent weeks the number started growing. By December of 2006, I was introduced to journalists in Nigeria and journalists from the US visiting Nigeria, you know, about a gay man has come to start a gay church in Nigeria. And of course, once the media started to write about it, it meant that the Nigerian society and the Nigerian government became a little bit more alert about what was going on. So I was one of the most hated person in Nigeria because of my stand to include LGBT people in the work that we do. And unfortunately, by the time we got to September of 2008, the intensity against our organization and myself was becoming quite violent. You know, my home was vandalized. You know, I was attacked in the street. Members of our communities were attacked. Many were fired from their jobs, expelled from their homes, you know, rejected by their family. It got really so bad. They had to get me out of the country because it got really bad. In 2010, I made a conscious decision that we need to restart the organization. So we restarted the organization in London. And since then, we've not looked back. There is a time in life where we were told who we are, and that's not who we are. But when you realize who you are, then you need to turn around and say, this is who I am. There is another scripture in the Bible that I love so much. It's in Romans. Those who were not loved shall be called beloved. So I'll say to people within the LGBT community that we are beloved because we are children of the living God. And I will say to people, particularly to the LGBT community, our parents, our friends and allies, you know, don't listen to all the things that the pastor says in their sermon, in their churches against the LGBT community. You need to listen to yourself and listen to what God is saying to you. The same Bible that is used to condemn homosexuality is also the same Bible that we're using to celebrate homosexuality, because God loves us just the way we are. Okay, paint me.
Thank you so much. I'm going to actually end on this slide, and as you can see in that film, it's been a long journey. And I think that I'm probably on course, most likely to be the most ordained person. Well, I started my theological journey. I was initially ordained in September 1998 at my father's ministry in Nigeria. So I've been a minister, an ordained minister for a long time. But, you know, in the years following my ordination at my father's ministry, I could not enter into the office because, you know, I was still struggling. My father didn't even ask me about my divorce. He didn't ask me, you know, those questions that you need to unpack. That didn't happen. But then I was ordained into ministry. Then I was struggling. He didn't know I was gay at the time either. So there's so much for me. I just couldn't do this job. But I just knew that God was calling me. So when I joined the Metropolitan Community Church, that was when I then had the opportunity to begin to unlearn and then relearn. And then, you know, they took me on and trained me and transferred my clerical credentials to them between 2003 and 2005. And it was after that I went to Nigeria to start House of Rainbow Ministry. But of course, you know, I've always been one foot in and one foot out with the Anglican Church from about 97. I met my friend here in 99, and, you know, we worked together in the Newham area and, you know, doing ministry work, you know, and this is back then. And, you know, I mean, Stephen Saxby, I'm glad you're here today. He literally convinced me and encouraged me to train for ministry in the Anglican Church. I didn't think that I was ready. But I believe that God was calling me because my ministry is beyond the LGBT community. We want to be a minister, a priest for all people. So, but coming into the Anglican Church was a whole different ballgame altogether. And I think that I was at the table over there with the musicians where I think I confessed to them that I've been illegally marrying gay people for the past 10 years. And I finally did my first heterosexual Anglican wedding just last weekend. Please don't tell anybody. I'm only joking. But it's just so good. And what I would say is that, God is at the center of every storm. I came to train with the Church of England starting in 2010. Then I went to Westcott in Cambridge in 2011. I was ordained deacon in 2013. And, for many people that know the Anglican tradition, it's usually a year before you become a priest. But of course, as they say, shit hit the fan. There were so many things about my sexuality that became a problem, for the denomination. And I was literally put out. So I decided to step out of ministry for a number of years because I was having so many challenges in this space. But of course, I returned back to ministry in the Anglican Church at the end of 2017. And, I was told, okay, Judy, we're going to ordain you to priesthood in 2018. That didn't happen. I just got a silent letter from the bishop to say we're not ready to ordain you. And of course, 2019, we're all preparing for my ordination. And 3 weeks before the ordination, I was called into the bishop's office and they said, no, we're not going to ordain you again. And to be quite honest, in 2018, I was pretty upset. 2019, I was not. To be quite honest, it's as if I was expecting it. And there's a backdrop to it. In 2018, I had been invited to Gay Pride to speak at Trafalgar Square, and you know how exciting that is. So I was so excited I lost my voice. So in the 4 minutes that I had, all I can say is G-A-Y means God adores you. And of course, a video clip got back to the bishop and they were mad and saying, no, it's against the canonical teaching of the Anglicans to tell gay people that G-A-Y means God adores you. And I go, God, I'm going to keep saying this now. So I didn't stop saying G-A-Y means God adores you. In fact, I made more words about it. Like God anoints you, God accomplishes you, God, accommodates you. I just made more words, affirming words for the queer community. But of course, again, in 2019, I had taken part in a television documentary called Am I Too Gay for God?, which was screened on BBC Prime Time. And because the church didn't know the real content of it, even though we asked them to be part of it, I think that was probably the main reason my ordination in 2019 was then suspended. But they tried to find other things like my tweets, was inappropriate and so on and so forth. I argued about those tweets, because it was part of my work. And the same tweet that they complained about, then I didn't take them down. They're still on my tweets. So, but nonetheless, my ordination in 2019 again was set aside, but I kept praying. But thankfully to God, in 2020, September 26, I was ordained to priesthood. So I just want to say, be courageous, fight that battle and stay strong when you're training for ministry. So things are going well with my ordination, and I'm just coming now to the end of my QAC. So hopefully I'll be looking for work. So if you know, a parish in Islington that is looking for a priest, I might just come back home to Islington. So I want to say thank you one more time, and thank you so much. The work of House of Rainbow is ongoing, so if you know of any support for House of Rainbow, please do let us know. I've got some of my colleagues here. We have some information on the desk behind you. Thank you.
Any questions? We have any questions?
Thank you. Hello. Can you tell us why you chose to set up a separate organisation rather than work through ones that already exist?
You mean House of Rainbow?
Yes.
Yeah. Actually, I mean, like I said in the film itself, I mean, House of Rainbow started because, you know, when I was searching for a church that is inclusive and affirming, I couldn't find any. And I had completed my training with the Metropolitan Community Church. So it felt the right pathway to then start House of Rainbow. And House of Rainbow started in Nigeria. There's a lot more backstory. When we started House of Rainbow, as you heard in the film, we started with 32 people on the first day. We had 218 people on our Yahoo group who were part of the core conversation before we started. And we were expecting over 500 people on day one in Nigeria in 2006. It was also the same year that the Nigerian government introduced the anti-gay bill, so everyone was scared. So a lot of people didn't come. And why did we start House of Rainbow? It started in Nigeria. There was nothing like this in Nigeria. So subsequently, when I was forced to return to the UK, we continued in the UK. We continued in the UK in my flat in Leytonstone for a few months. And of course, you know, my friend who was part of the Anglican Church locally gave us a hall, you know, for us to continue the ministry because the group was getting bigger and bigger. Why did we start House of Rainbow? Because there was nothing like it. We didn't have the space. We needed the space for Black queer people to be able to experience their own reality. Thank you.
Any more?
Questions are good, comments are great.
Yeah, I want to pick up on, so you've been quite clear, like, you know, don't listen to other people, listen to what God's telling you and to yourself. And clearly you have a really, really strong calling to ordination. So how have you kind of cut through all of that noise over the years, and why have you put up with the Church of England, actually?
Oh my God, let me start with why did I put up with the Church of England?
Yeah.
No, on a serious note, I mean, I had amazing mentors, to be honest, who are Anglicans, and they reminded me that God comes first. Jide, you know, you are going through a lot, but focus on what God is calling you to do. And, you know, I've always said that no one has the monopoly to the presence of God. You know, we all individually have that unique access to God. So it's really not the decision of a bishop or anything, it's actually God's decision. So the question is that, Julia, can you persevere, you know? And I remember, you know, one of my mentors, you know, I was going to do a talk, and then, you know, she said to me that, Julia, whether you wear your collar or not, your clerical collar or not, is not important. People want to hear what God is placing on your heart. And that was so important, you see. So, what's the first point of the question? How do I keep going? Whew. You know what, honestly, I'm guided by scriptures a lot. I'm guided by my faith in God. One of my favorite passages is 1 Peter 3:9. It says that do not repay evil for evil, abuse for abuse, but rather repay with a blessing, for this is why you are called, that you might inherit a blessing. I love that verse. It reminds me a lot not to retaliate, not to revenge, but to stand with God. And you know, social media also sets you up as well, because, you know, people post something on your own message, you get mad, you get angry. I don't. I just block and delete their message. Because one, I didn't invite them, they invited themselves. So if you put something nasty, I block you and I remove your message. Because I don't want those who are following my message to see those nastiness, because a lot of people will also get angry if they see them. So it's really about guiding people as well and making sure that we continue to create safe spaces. Actually, going back to the question of my friend the first time, why House of Rainbow? We need more safe spaces, because not all LGBT people will be able to withstand the other spaces, you know? I've been very fortunate myself. I mean, my current church placement is at St. Mary in Walthamstow, one of the most inclusive churches, you know, I've been to. Actually, the priest there is amazing. Everyone is welcoming. So the first time I actually consecrated in the church, I was wearing a rainbow stole. Everyone they just went not mad, but they were so happy. there were so many family members say, oh my God, there's a priest in my church with a rainbow stone, oh my God, that kind of situation. And that is really important and very, very important as well. Yeah.
Time for one more.
Hi, nice simple question for you. There was a lovely line in the film when you talked about setting up in London and never looking back. How does it feel to look back now?
Oh goodness, how does it feel to look back? I think there's a feeling of triumph, feeling of victory. I think also people don't understand that in the time where I've been pushed back from the ordination, it just felt horrible. But people don't understand what keeps you going. But when I look back now, I'm sorry. No, it's not a call. It's not really bad. It's 8 o'clock, I can tell you that. I think I kind of like we just continue to stand still, and the testimony is the fact that people find out about me almost instantaneously, and sometimes the publicity that I get in places like Nigeria and around the world, I can't afford to pay for it, but it does two things. One, it raises the consciousness of haters, and it also tells people that there is a space for them that they can reach out. So whilst I'm getting all these hate messages, believe it or not, we're also getting an increased demand for our services. So when I look back, I'm looking at that. So I never take it for granted that people will hate me. I think that they're doing God's work in a different way, so to say. But I think sometimes it might feel very difficult to handle it, but I think I'm finding my own way on my feet in doing that. So when I look back, I'm looking at the triumph, and I know that God has carried us through all of those periods, and we're in a better place now. Thank you.
I don't know what to say really. It's just so beautiful. As a presentation, as a sharing of who you are and what you've been through and where you're going with your life, and it's been really very inspiring, and I think very important for us here in this space. So thank you very, very much, and I know we'll be in touch and keep in contact with each other. It's really, really, really good to know you. Thank you.
So,
can you give us a bit of a tinkle? Ben is very good at giving background music for the meditation. Oh, great. Chaplain's going to play as well. We're going to have a meditation now, which is what we've been doing on these evenings. This week, last week we had it with gongs and bells, which is very nice, but we're going to have cello and piano today. We're speaking over you. feet on the floor. Sit comfortably. And to become aware of your breathing. Just the gentleness of breath. Acknowledging each breath. Being grateful for it. Valuing each breath in and out as a gift. The gift of life given to each one of us. We become aware of our bodies, our feet rooted firmly on the ground, on the earth that sustains us. Aware of our legs, our stomachs, our chest. Our hands, our wrists, our arms, our shoulders, our neck, our face, our foreheads, and the top of our heads. Just enjoy. Just enjoy our own bodies. And releasing all the worries about your life, what you will eat or what you will wear. For life is more than food, and the body more than clothing. Seek only the kingdom of God and God's justice, taking no care for tomorrow. And if you can, sense the love of God, not as an intellectual idea, but as a presence. Just warming each part of who we are, knowing the love of God, touching our intellect, your brain, your emotions, your heart, your strength, your body. And be aware that the God who we love with all our hearts, minds, soul and strength loves your heart, loves your mind, loves your soul, loves your body. And become aware of who you are, a whole human being, an integrated human being, heart, mind, soul, body, one person, trust yourself, complete, whole, a child of God, beloved of God, embraced by God. And entrust this loving God with your desires, your longings, your hopes, your love. Surrender all of yourself to the perfect love of God. For in God's love, you are valued just as you are. You are valued just who you are. Knowing that you belong in God's beloved community. So be strong, be proud, be compassionate with yourself and with others. And slowly once again become aware of your body. Maybe taking a deep breath. Becoming aware of your fingers, your toes, your whole body. And in your own time, come to an awareness of the room. Acknowledge the time you have spent with God. And return to this awareness of God's grace whenever you need. Now we're going to have some music. The bar is open, as I say.
Good evening, everyone. We're about to have the next piece of music now, with a piece by the person you'd probably think of if someone asked you to name a gay classical musician or a gay composer, Tchaikovsky. This particular piece is a bit of a full circle moment. It happened to be the very first thing I played in my many Union Chapel gigs all the way back in 2018. And it is I think it's just a nice way of coming back round to that. Back when we did a wonderful Pride service, and when I got my first taste of a safe religious LGBT welcoming space, something that I had not had any taste of growing up in the middle of the countryside down in the West. That's not meant as a dig against the West, I should have. Also, as a nice moment of coincidences, from Reverend Jide, he was born in the same year as my dad. Which is a nice way to think of it or a nice way to think of it is twice the 21-year-old with a 14-year advantage. And also, Reverend Jide happened to come out in the year I was born. So another wonderful set of coincidences going on there. Yes. I also think that in light of everything going on in the world, and not just with this event, playing something by Tchaikovsky couldn't be more apt. Not just for the fact that it's probably the most famous gay classical musician anyone can think of, but he, like so many people suffering tremendously in Ukraine at the moment, was known for being demonized and treated very cruelly by a top establishment. Official records say that he died of tuberculosis. It is more widely believed that a political court came together and basically convinced him to take his own life in light of his sexuality. It's also a very potent reminder with what we have going on in the world for us to remember to keep remember that our artists and our citizens are not the same as the politicians that represent our country necessarily. And for that reason, I don't think there could be a more perfect choice as we do tonight at the moment. What you're going to be hearing is a wonderful arrangement of a movement from one of Tchaikovsky's string quartets, just simply andante cantabile, which just means leisurely and in a singing style. It invites you to get in touch with probably the more softer side of your emotions. It's an incredibly heartfelt, lyrical meditation in its own right. So with no further ado, enjoy.
Well, that was really beautiful. Yes, so we're going to do 3 songs for you. The first of which is by the amazing orchestrator, arranger, pianist Billy Strayhorn, who worked a lot with Duke Ellington back in the 40s and 50s, and we're going to be doing Lush Life. Visit all the very gay places, those come-what-may places, where one relaxes on the axis of the wheel of life to get a feel of life from jazz and cocktails. The girls I knew had sad, sudden grey faces with distant K traces that used to be there. You could see where they'd been washed away by too many through the day. 12 cocktails. Then you came along with your siren song to tempt me to madness. I thought for a while that your poignant smile was tinged with the sadness of a great love for me. Oh yes, I was wrong. I guess I was wrong. Is lonely again, and only last year everything seemed so sure. Now life is awful again, a truffle of hearts could only be a bore. To Paris could ease the bite of it. All I care is to smile in spite of it. I'll forget you, I will, and yet you're still there, rolling inside my stifling those who strive. I'll live a lush life in some small dive, and there I'll be where I'll rot with the rest. Oh, with those whose lives are long. yet you're still there, burning inside my brain. Romance is much stifling those who strive. I'll live a lush life in some small dive, and there I'll be, where I'll rot with the rest of those whose lives are lonely too. We're going to do an original composition by Ben.
With words from W.H. Auden, who had a very complicated relationship with Christianity and went a bit back and forth. And some of that comes through in the poem. Also, it's from the 1930s and it speaks a lot of the anticipation of war and everything that comes with that. And it's about one of the themes is about holding on to the moments of beauty and joy that come your way when they do come amidst everything else.
Lay your sleeping head, my love, human on my faithless arm. Time and fevers burn away individual beauty from thoughtful children, and the grave passes child ephemeral. But in my arms till break of day, let the living creature lie, mortal guilty, but to me the entirely beautiful. sexuality on the stroke of midnight pass like vibrations of a bell, and fashionable madmen raise their pedantic boring cry. Every farthing of the cost, all the dreaded cards for turn, shall be paid from this night. Not a whisper nor a thought, not a kiss, not look be lost. Beauty, midnight, vision dies. Let the winds of dawn that blow softly round your dreaming hand, such a day of sweetness show, eye and knocking heart may bless, find the moon to well. Enough noons of dryness see you fed by the involuntary powers. Nights of insult let you pass, watched by every human love. So we're going to finish with something a bit more upbeat. Don't worry, it's not COVID. Did a test. Just actually. Okay, we're going to finish with a bit of a queer anthem from the 1920s. This is by Misha Spolyansky. And yes, it's called Das Liebe Lied, but we're going to be doing the English translation, which is The Lavender Song. It's, imagine you're in a 20s Berlin cabaret. I'll leave it at that. What makes them think they have the right to say what God considers vice? What makes them think they have the right to keep us out of paradise? They make our lives hell here on earth, poisoning us with guilt and shame. If we resist, prison awaits. Is our love does not speak its name. The crime is when love must hide. From now on we'll love with pride. We're not afraid to be queer and different. If that means hell, well, hell will take the chance. So they are so straight, uptight, upright and rigid. They march in lockstep while we all just dance. We see a world of romance and of pleasure. All they can see is sheer banality. Lavender nights are our greatest treasure, where we can be just who we want to be. Round us all up, send us away. That's what you'd really like to do. But we're too strong, proud and afraid. You act from what fears inside of you. You and fear. Why should that be? What is it that you're frightened of? The way that we dress, the way that we meet, the fact that you cannot destroy our love. We're going to win our rights to lavender days and nights. Oh, we're not afraid to be queer and different. If that means hell, well, hell will take the chance. They are so straight, upright, uptight, and rigid. They march in lockstep while we all just dance. We see a world of romance and of pleasure. All they can see is sheer banality. Lavender nights are our greatest treasure, where we can be just what we want to be. Lavender nights are our greatest treasure, where we can be just who we want to be.
Well, that's it. Well, thank you. What a night. Amazing, amazing. Thanks again to Jide, to Jacqueline, to George, to Annie, and to Ben. Great night. Hope to see you all again. And if any of you have any ideas about how we can take forward the kind of things that we've been talking about tonight here at Union Chapel, just have a word with myself or Catherine. We're really keen to follow through on this. So thank you all very much. Next week it's Meet Your Neighbour time, and the week after that it's Women and the Beloved Community, so come to that. And on the 26th, don't forget, very important, the film King, and on Good Friday night, Beloved. Where's what from?
The march. The march.
Oh, the march. March is from Montgomery to Memphis. The bar still open, stay, enjoy and have conversation. Thank you.